The events of the manhwa begin in the city of Udi. We see chaos reigning all around and some kind of explosion is visible in the distance. People do not believe that what is happening seriously and think that everyone is worrying in vain. We see our main character, whose name is Li Fan, looking at this very explosion and holding his phone in his hands. He is already thinking about taking a photo of this to send it to his friends. He starts reading the news on his phone. It says that there was an explosion at a chemical plant. The guy reading this news suddenly realized the seriousness of what was happening. Li Fan reads this news and is unhappy that there is so little information in it, despite the fact that the event is quite serious. He also sees people discussing the end of the world, which they expected in past years. You can see how this guy is already going to take a picture of this explosion. Meanwhile, he begins to think that nothing terrible really happened, because even the smoke from this explosion is not visible. From the outside, you can see how this guy with headphones is standing at the bus stop and waiting for his bus. He looks around and sees only a bunch of ordinary cars around. He realizes that he won't see a bus here in the near future. Even if the bus runs in this place, Lin Fanyu is still too lazy to wait for it, because this Sigma has more important things to do, so this kid just put on his headphones with music and decides to go further. Walking along the streets of this city, Li Fan thought about turning into one of some suspicious back streets, deciding that it would be better for him to take a shortcut because it would take him a long time to walk. The guy is about to enter some kind of tunnel. This fool, right along the road, being in his headphones, decides to join the League of Legends and not even worry about crashing into some object. You can see that after entering the tunnel, he can't get away from his phone. Apparently, the guy plays quite well because he dominates his opponents. While he was walking, some kind of puddle appeared in front of him. And of course, this gamer doesn't notice her at all. Because he was very carried away by being stuck on his phone, he stepped into this puddle. And she, realizing that someone had come into contact with her, begins to smile madly looking at the guy. Surprisingly, Fan was able to realize that he had stepped on something. Starting to look at this dirt with a dissatisfied look, he thinks that he has stepped in dog shit, but he still does not know what awaits him next. It turned out that this was not an ordinary dirty puddle at all, but the Demon King himself, who had been waiting for his victim in this tunnel for a very long time. Taking advantage of the moment, the demon begins to wrap its tentacles around the unsuspecting guy. Li Fan realized that this thing was trying to grab him. He tried to scream and resist, thinking that the slime from AliExpress was trying to grab him. Realizing that he himself could not do anything, the guy tried to call for help. Next, you might think that this monster dragged the poor protagonist straight to the underworld, judging by the various strange drawings. But we can understand that it entered into some kind of contract with the guy. Li Fan, after all these strange events, begins to simply lie on the ground unconscious. His bag with headphones are scattered around, and the Demon King apparently has calmed down and again looks like an ordinary puddle. The main character suddenly woke up. From his bulging eyes, you can understand that the guy is now very scared. At this moment, he does not understand what is happening and thinks that the monster is still next to him. He begins to wave his arms like mad. He tries to drive away this evil spirit, thinking that it has managed to take over his body. He begins to pray and asks the Lord to have mercy on him in the name of the Father and Son of the Holy Spirit. Having risen to his feet, this boy begins to examine himself and realizes that his head and bones are not broken and that parts of his body are in place. He is completely safe and healthy, and so far everything is fine with him. The schoolboy grabs his head and tries to remember these events. He doesn't understand what happened. It's been too hot in recent days, and it seems to him that it was because of this that he lost his consciousness and sees various hallucinations. Next, he decides to collect his things from the floor and move on. When he grabbed his bag, it was as if a demonic aura came out of there. Meanwhile, the guy is still trying to remember what happened to him earlier. Events move to the economic zone of Xiaohu. The guy is noticed by some old stump and begins to think that Li Fan got drunk and scolds him for this. The guy tells Uncle Liu to better keep an eye on his grandson. Our Yifan is a loser, who is 18 years old, a first-year student at the Academy of Fine Arts in the city of Udi. Unfortunately for him, he did not score enough points to enter this university. The guy understands that his parents won't stand it if he decides to take courses again and tries to retake the exams. Then after all the events today, he decides to take a relaxing shower to become clean again. The main character is glad that his parents will not be home for several days. Having started to take a shower, he is about to start thinking about someone. It is not clear why exactly. You can expect anything from this guy. Having started to take a shower, he believes that sooner or later he will go to university, and now is the time to dream about a beauty. Meanwhile, some red-haired creature with unknown intentions crawled out behind this guy. Meanwhile, while the guy was taking his shower, the weather on the street suddenly deteriorated. The sky became a strange color. and the residents who were on the street at that time noticed this and did not understand why the weather had deteriorated so sharply. Events are transferred to the Tsinghua chemical plant. We see some kind of portal, and a soldier who reports to the boss that this time the intruders are 72 demons. They manage to kill 13 demons and capture 33. Next, we are shown some purple-haired girl. She looks around as if she is trying to find someone right now. She does not understand where this person could be heading. We can see this girl in full growth. It is immediately clear that she is a serious woman. Some cute animal flies near her, and she is still trying to complete her task and find some person. The next chapter begins and we again see the purple-haired girl, who is now looking at the explosion in her tablet. She understands that during this explosion, a certain cocoon was already empty. She asks the soldier if they checked the area. He says that they checked everything, examined the remains and took various samples for testing, and did not find any traces of demons. Apparently, the strong girl doesn't really believe the words of this soldier. She turns with a smile on her face to her little animal, whose name is Xiao Bai, and asks his opinion about all this. The purple-haired girl, having listened to the opinion of her little friend, looks away and realizes that the world of demons has decided to play with him, and the fight against such enemies will not be easy. The girl suddenly felt more cheerful. She thought about this demonic race and understands that she definitely won't get bored with them. She is glad that she finally felt fun, and in the meantime, they show us a portal, and next to it, a large hole. Then we return again to Li Yifan, who is still taking a shower, and at this moment rubbing his little back. He hears some strange voice and does not understand what these sounds are next to him. Behind this naked guy, the red-haired demon appears again, who is talking about something. It feels like Li Yifan dropped the soap. Meanwhile, he became cold, and he already thinks that he has not added enough gas. This monster, behind the main character, suddenly approaches him quite close and begins to talk about what Li Yifan, while he was swimming, did not expect that someone would break into him like that, and when he saw him, he did not understand what kind of weirdo he was. A huge red-haired monster decided to show his claws to the guy, so that he would realize how strong he still is. The red-haired one promises to eat Li Yifan, and thereby scares him. It can be seen how this monster decided not to waste his precious time. In order to show that he is keeping his words, the red-haired one attacks the main character, baring his teeth. Li Yifan thinks that he is screwed. Out of despair, the weak guy simply puts his hands in front of him, while hoping for the best. Suddenly, for this villain, a strange magical shield appeared around the guy, which saved him from this attack. The toothy creature, turning its attention to protecting the protagonist, thought a little after that and suddenly realized that this was all because of the fucking contract that the demon had made with him. Li Yifan further recalls that he was naked in front of his guest all this time. Taking advantage of the moment while the monster was distracted, the guy took a small curtain and decided to cover his small pod with it. The main character decides to clarify what kind of Pokemon this is. It turned out that it is the Demon King himself. He looks at the guy with displeasure and does not understand why the contract turned him into a servant, and the guy into a master. The offended Demon King tries once again to seem formidable, and again threatens the guy to devour him, while he still does not understand how such an ancient contract was signed in the first place. Because of this very contract, the Demon King is now really not in the best position. He shrank to a small size and realized that he could not kill the guy. Li Yifan took advantage of the moment to step on him. Li Yifan raised his leg. It is clear that the demon does not feel very well after the first blow, and the main character apparently decides to hit him again to show who is in charge. As expected, Li Yifan stepped on this little monster again. Feeling complete impunity, the Demon King still tries to appear formidable and promises to devour this big boy. It may seem like the main character knocked the crap out of this Demon King's body with his 2 hard kicks, since he's lying unconscious on the ground right now. The brown-haired man grabs the demon who previously wanted to devour him alive by his clothes and lifts him to his face. Li Yifan tries to understand what kind of strange creature this is. Meanwhile, the red-haired one is still unconscious. Then he got dressed and tied this creature to the table. Just looking at him, the evil Demon King yells at the guy and says that if he has enough courage, then let him finish him off, because today, either the demon or the guy will die. The words of the evil demon do not inspire fear in Li Yifan. He is only interested in one question. The brown-haired man asks with a calm look what the hell he is, and waits for the creature to introduce itself. Red-haired was very infuriated by the words of the main character. In response, she called his entire family crap and begins to introduce herself, saying that he is a famous Demon King, so he should be feared and not mocked in this way. This Demon King looks as if he was perplexed. He raised his tail and awkwardly wondered what his real name was. Apparently this loser really forgot his name. The young guy realized that this creature does not like to be insulted, so he became interested in what happened to his body. Because he saw a human figure, the demon resists and asks the guy to just let him go. However, the stupid guy still doesn't realize the seriousness of the situation. He can't believe that this is really some kind of demon king. He touches his tail and doesn't understand what kind of realistic material this is. Li Yifan thought a little. He wants to try to do something with this tail. From the options he has, cut it, set it on fire. But remembering that he does not have objects for this, he decides to drill it with a drill. The crazy guy takes out a drill and, having launched it, grabs the demon king by the tail and is going to drill him. The red-haired one was very scared and is already thinking that Yifan himself is a demon. Suddenly, the guy's attention is attracted to some kind of record player. He loudly reminds the brown-haired man that it's 20 ak, and that means he has to feed his neighbor's dogs. The main character paid attention to the notification and stopped. The red-haired one thinks that this player is some kind of ritual vessel for transmitting information because he has never heard of such a thing in the world of demons. The dissatisfied guy lets the demon go and removes the drill, saying that he will deal with it when he returns, because the neighbor's dogs are more important. If he doesn't feed them, they will start making noise. Li Yifan went to calm the dogs down and said that the food was heating up in the microwave, and he would soon serve them something to eat. The red-haired one tied up in his room doesn't understand what a microwave oven is. Despite the fact that this small creature is tied with tape to the table, he still believes that in no case will some guy be able to stop him in this way, and believes that he will be able to break free. The Demon King is already starting to resist. Trying to use all his physical strength, he tries to break the tape. Despite the fact that it is difficult, he still believes in his strength. Meanwhile, while the demon is trying to escape from his captivity, a young guy is already opening the door to his neighbor's apartment and letting the dogs know that he has already come and brought them food. Entering the apartment, he sees two cute dogs who suddenly started talking. They demand food from him, thinking that he wants to keep all the food for himself. Meanwhile, the little dog really wants a female. The main character looks very surprised. Upon entering this apartment, he was going to simply feed these dogs and immediately return back to his place. But he did not expect that the dogs would start talking to him. In the next chapter, Li Yifan continues to stand in front of these two strange dogs. He still looks very puzzled and remembers how they insulted him and tries to find out how they talk. The two dogs listened carefully to the main character. They just continue to look at him silently. Apparently, they think that there is nothing strange in the fact that they are talking. They start talking loudly to him. They confirm that they called him an asshole. The small dog reminds him that he needs a female and the big dog needs food. These two look like they are going to eat the guy. The brown-haired man still can't believe what's happening in front of him right now, so he doesn't even respond to the dog's requests and just thinks that he should go to bed to get rid of the hallucinations. Next, Li Yifan falls to the floor in front of these dogs as if dead. The guy lying on the ground believes that he might still feel better after sleep. The dogs just silently look at him. The big dog, having studied him, understands that this guy has fainted and asks his friend what they will do. The small dog doesn't care about the guy at all. He still needs a female. The big dog tells the other dog that they will have to make do with what they have. The small dog understands that this is a bad idea, because last time he used his owner's leg and was punished for it. Next, the little dog realizes that this guy is not his owner, and besides, he fainted, so he won't know anything, because the dog will do everything quickly. The husky checks his condition. The brown dog, after thinking, decides to try to do his own thing. He tells his friend about this, and the black and white dog, having examined the guy, understands that he can already begin, because he is passed out. Next, you can see how the brown-haired Li Yifan begins to wake up, and again hears the dialogue between these two dogs. The small dog is afraid that the guy will beat him. The big dog says that in theory he shouldn't do this. Having woken up, the main character notices that a brown dog is standing in front of him on two legs, who has big plans for this guy. The dog noticed late that he woke up and got caught. Is Yifan angry seeing this terrible picture, jumped back and understands that these dogs are already completely crossing all boundaries, and begins to call for something with the help of his right hand. The brown-haired man, taking out some strange hammer with a face from the portal, promises to kick the dogs' butts and has already waved his weapon, and is trying to deliver his crushing blow, showing the dogs who's boss. With this same hammer, the main character hit the dog right next to the stomach. You can see how this didn't make her very happy, and she begins to whine like a man and realizes that she is lost again, just like with the owner. Meanwhile, a big dog is watching this whole scene. When she sees the blow, she understands that there is not a living thing left of her friend Erto, and realizes that it was in vain that she promised him that they would not beat him. It turned out that the Demon King himself turned into this hammer. He is very dissatisfied with this, and his beautiful face has also deteriorated in some way. Li Yifan never ceases to be surprised by the oddities that are happening around him. The Demon King realizes that he can't stand this anymore, so he turns back into his true form and, being very angry, promises everyone to finish them all right here and now. Husky saw that some huge demon had appeared in front of him. He could not understand how such a creature could appear in front of him, and was very surprised by this, because he did not expect such a turn of events. The Husky's eye begins to glow red. He sees how it seems to have grown out of the ground, changing its shape from a hammer into a huge demon, and does not understand how this is possible. The dog understands that in that form, he was weaker than her. Seeing the huge, angry demon, the dog was not at all scared. Unlike her friend Earth, who is trying to hide by putting his paw forward, the Husky asks them all to wait for something. Noticing how everyone listened to his request, the Husky suddenly crawls under the sofa for everyone and takes out a push-button telephone on which the police number was dialed. Suddenly, everyone present got scared. The demon doesn't understand what kind of weapon this is and doesn't understand what this dog is doing. It's clear from Yifan's face that he became scared, and he doesn't understand when this animal learned to call. The dog tries to call the police and says that there is a huge demon and doesn't understand if anyone can hear him. The dog says that they want to kill him and asks people to save his dog's life. Due to the fact that the demon's powers in the human world are consumed faster, the demon decreased again. The guy at first did not understand what was going on, because at first he was so fierce, and now he became like this after the dog took out the phone. Suddenly, the police answered the call of this dog. The operator says that he is listening to him, and the dog, convinced of this, tries to explain to them what is happening here. But Li Yifan suddenly took the phone away from him. It can be seen how the main character decided to take the speed, realizing that he no longer had a choice. He simply took the dog's phone, and to the surprise of everyone, he simply threw it with force on the ground and broke it. After which, the guy simply poured dog food into the bowls of these talking animals and abruptly left their apartment without saying anything, because he had already done what he came here for in the first place. The dog is simply shocked by the actions of the protagonist. All she can do is sit in this apartment with a broken phone, along with her friend Erto, and enjoy the food that Li Yifan poured out for them. Leaving the apartment, the brown-haired man is glad that the phone was old and could easily break. Meanwhile, the Husky begins to call this fool back, and Erto is still sitting and experiencing pain in his balls. One of the dogs continues to shout at the main character right through the door and says that Yifan crossed her path in vain. Meanwhile, the brown-haired man still thinks that this is a hallucination and everything will soon pass. Suddenly, they begin to show us some strange man in red shorts who has been watching all these actions all this time. He realized that a certain Qing Shui's dog can make phone calls. We see the face of this hot man with a long tongue. He stopped looking at his device, thought after what he saw, and thinks that all this is very interesting for him. In the next chapter, we see this strange man again. He looks at a photograph of Qing Shui and says that she is a brilliant girl from apartment 10180. From the expression of his face, you can see how he admires her beauty. Continuing to look at the photograph of this girl, this handsome man is right now thinking what else can be said about her. We see the photo itself. There is a Qing Shui on it. She feeds her already familiar dogs, and the man looking at the photo says that he is very disappointed in her for some reason. Despite this madman begins to lick her photo and laugh like crazy. In his opinion, sooner or later, she will be his no matter what. He is sure that he will lure her with his beauty. Meanwhile, while this strange man was licking a photo of a beautiful girl and imagining how he was doing all sorts of things to her, a notification came to his phone, and apparently, he would have to respond. Looking at his phone, he sees how the editor-in-chief wrote to him that tomorrow President Dongsheng Biopan will go to Huanglong Mountain in the city for a secret deal, and for a clear photograph of this, there will be a reward of 100,000. Having read these messages to the end, the man continues to look and begins to smile slyly. He begins to smile because he is glad that a new job has appeared. He decides to take care of it first, and then his own affairs. Meanwhile, we again see our main character. He is about to enter the apartment right now. While thinking about what happened to him earlier, he believes that it was all a very strange dream. Having already opened his door, whether Yifan is serious or not, he understands that his goal is to study and enter the Academy of Fine Arts. After graduating from school, he will play games and work for money. We see how he imagines his bright future, how he will become a general director and marry a beauty. He is sure that this is exactly what awaits him, but he does not yet know that he will work at McDonald's. Li Yifan enters the house. He is very pleased after his thoughts about a bright future. Then he begins to believe that all monsters are fiction and do not exist. Meanwhile, the Demon King silently looks at him. The guy paying attention to this creature is very frightened, as if he saw him for the very first time. He realizes that a monster is sitting in front of him, although this red-haired one is harmless. Meanwhile, events are transferred to the police station, to which apparently the dog called. A man with a cup of coffee tries to talk to the caller, but notices that there is no sound, and it seems they hung up. He understands that something is wrong here, and asks a girl named Tang Xiaoberry to check the address of the room. She says that this is apartment number 502, Building 1, Tengjun Community, Northwestern Avenue, and the owner is Qin Shui. The man listened to his colleague, after which he turned away and apparently thinks that this is some kind of joke, because 80% of the calls from this apartment are complete nonsense. The girl asks how often they call the police. He says that the stupid dog calls here at least 3 times a month for no reason. Every time it is either a sad story about how he lost in a fight or something else, and since they are not babysitters, it is better for them to ignore this call. Tang Xiaoberry understands him and suggests that he do something useful. She suggests that he look at the spiritual power detector at this address, and maybe they will find something important. However, the aggressive alpha male, not happy with the fact that some woman dares to tell him what to do, he hit the table hard and shouts at him. From the expression on the girl's face, you can understand that she was scared. The man continues to shout at her. He says that she is just an intern who came here because he decided so she should not forget who is in charge. Tang Xiaoberry understood everything. Realizing that the girl understood everything, the man simply takes off his headphones and is unhappy that someone is calling again in the middle of the night about his stupid dog. He is just sure that this will happen. The man in the green t-shirt tells the girl that he is leaving, and she should continue to be on duty and not bother him over trifles. Tang Xiaoberry understands that she cannot disobey him and makes it clear that she understands everything. Seeing that her boss has left the room, the girl decides to take the phone and, worried, is already thinking about calling her cousin to tell him about everything that happened over the phone. Meanwhile, we return to Li Yifan, who, armed with a vacuum cleaner, does not understand why the demon is here. The red-haired one says that he entered into a contract with him, so there is no way he can leave here. The disgruntled guy tells him that he didn't sign anything like that, so it doesn't count. But he still says that he wants to terminate the contract right now and is waiting for the monster's reaction. The demon just eats his food and says that he himself would do it with great pleasure if it were possible. The guy doesn't yet know that the contract between the master and the servant is an ancient ritual, so it can't be terminated so easily. Next, Li Yifan tells him to stop eating dog food because it is very expensive, and he also decides to clarify why he cannot break the contract with him because he does not want to cooperate with him. Continuing to eat expensive dog food despite the main character, the King of Demons takes his eyes off him and simply says that he cannot send him away like that, because this is not the right thing to do. After hearing that Li Fan's patience has run out, he decides to take everything into his own hands, and looking at the little demon with a crazy look, he says that he gave him an idea that the guy is going to bring to life. To the surprise of the red-haired man, Li Yifan suddenly picked up the phone and started calling the delivery service. He says that he needs to send something and asks them for a courier who will soon be at his house. After some time, the courier was already at the young guy's house. The worker asks the brown-haired man what he will send, whether Yifan put the demon in a box, and says that it is a plastic figurine, which is very important. Meanwhile, while the main character and the courier are having their dialogue, the bound demon king in the box cannot understand what this guy is up to and why he tied him up in the first place. After listening to the main character, the courier realizes that this package is probably very expensive. So he asks the guy if he will take out insurance in order to almost lose his money. A brave guy with a confident appearance says that he doesn't need any insurance. The courier was not satisfied with this answer because he thinks that the guy will blame him if something happens to the parcel. The box has already closed. The red-haired man hears how Li Yifan wants to send him to the Himalayas, even though the delivery will be very expensive. Because of this, the Demon King becomes furious. The brown-haired man watches the delivery service car that is taking away this demon. She is glad that there will finally be peace and quiet, and considers himself smart. He is sure that the monster will never get to him from there. Li Yifan thinks that he was finally able to get rid of him, despite the fact that the Demon King said that this would not be possible due to the contract. Meanwhile, a portal appeared behind the guy. The same demon who was previously sent to the Himalayas crawls out of this portal. With his appearance, the red-haired one made sounds that the main character heard and is already turning around to check what is there. Turning around, this fool notices the Demon King, who seems to be in that car now. He never expected that he would appear at his house again. And in such a strange way. Because of this, he was simply shocked. The demon just smiles, looking at the guy. He stands proudly in front of him because he understands that he was able to prove that he was right. He asks what the guy didn't understand from the words, "We have a contract, and I can't leave." Dissatisfied, Li Yifan grabs this demon and begins to turn him in different directions. He says that he has his whole life ahead of him, so let him be left alone. The demon is dizzy and asks to let him go. In the next chapter, the red-haired man says that he forgot a lot of things, but remembers the method of terminating the contract. If both parties agree and they are of equal level, then the ceremony can be performed in the temple of the demonic emperor. Li Yifan is interested in about this temple. The demon says that it is also called the Temple of Empress Guo. The stupid guy listened to the demon and thought that it would be easy to find by simply Googling it. Continuing to eat his food, the brown-haired man wants to find out more about the ritual. The red-haired one says that various things are needed, such as seals and soul stones, but apparently these things will not be so easy to get. Having heard about these resources, Li Yifan realizes that soul camps are indeed very expensive, and he does not have that kind of money, especially since they cannot even be bought for money, and it is not clear how they can be bought at all. While the guy was thinking about the Empress's temple and the cost of soul stones, he suddenly remembers that in addition to this, the demon also said about a certain equal level. He decides to ask the monster about this. Redhair says that he is an otherworldly king, a sacred one at that, and he is close to the 6 great kings in his world, namely the Monkey King, the Scorpion King, the Bull King, the Bird King, the Lion King, and the Elephant King. The brown-haired man felt funny at his words. He thinks that the monster is showing off and calls him the King of the Dwarfs. The dissatisfied Demon King says that he has shrunk due to a serious injury, and sooner or later he will return to his form. The guy became interested in how it is possible to correlate their levels. The demon shows him a certain table and says that he needs to have something like Zhuji or a good Lianqi. The demon himself does not remember the exact answer. Li Yifan understands that he needs to reach the level of Zhuji from scratch. He realizes that it will be too difficult for him, but he will have to do it if he wants to terminate the contract. The happy Demon King simply lay down. Continuing to eat food, he tells the main character to try. Because without a dream, this person will be no different from a fish in a lake that swims aimlessly. The brown-haired man begins to get very worried. He is afraid that he will not be able to cope with this alone, and excitedly asks the King of Demons if he will help him achieve this difficult goal. Then the guy started daydreaming again. He thought that it would be nice to be a cultivator, and maybe it would help him become the director of a company. Then he could get a beauty, and life would be completely unusual. The satisfied red-haired one noticed that the main character suddenly became daydreaming. The monster makes him understand that he is a spirit, a demon, and this means that he is not going to help the pitiful and helpless person. Tired Li Yifan decides to lie down to take a nap and tells the demon that tomorrow they will talk. While the guy was walking to the bed, he doesn't understand why he needs all this, because he will soon have to take the entrance exams. The morning of the next day came. We see a sleepy Li Yifan and a demon sleeping next to him. The guy was woken up by the sudden ringing of his phone, and he does not understand that he can call at such an early time. Having answered the call, Li Yifan realizes that it is his father. From him, he learns that he and his mother have already returned home from their trip. Judging by the expression on the guy's face, he is still trying to wake up to understand what is happening. He also learns from him about the ceremony of transferring the Taoist talent. This seems strange, because it seemed to him that their grandfather was a fake Taoist. So where did he get the talent? His father says that Yifan should return home. After the boy stopped talking on the phone, he noticed the demon who was sleeping while he was already awake, so he kicked it with his foot, asking if he was afraid of the fake Taoists. The Demon King still looks very sleepy, and rubbing his eyes realizes that Taoists can also be fake. Because of this, he considers people to be very interesting personalities. Events are transferred to the street. Li Yifan arrived by bus to the Camphor Laurel Ridge stop. The main character realizes that his chatterbox grandfather and annoying uncle are waiting for him at home, so he will have to somehow endure them. While he is walking to his house, he remembers how he failed his exams. He becomes very ashamed, and because of this, he does not want to return home, knowing that he will definitely be scolded for this. Next, Yifan turns to the demon, who apparently has entered the bag. The brown-haired man wants to know how to address him, since he has forgotten his name. He says that he can call him the great and unsurpassed handsome Mr. King of Demons. The guy just felt funny at the demon's words. He says that he looks like a dead fish, so he is by no means handsome, and assumes that the demon has problems with perception. The brown-haired man also understands that a master-servant contract has been concluded between them, so that he as a demon must obey him. The Demon King knows that yesterday, when Yifan turned him into a hammer, he guessed everything. The main character believes that the monster has problems not with memory, but with his head, so he will call him an imbecile. The red-haired one does not understand how he guessed. He did not expect that people could be smart. Next, you can notice how after the guy called the demon an imbecile, apparently because of the contract, Li Yifan, as his master, was able to change his name. Various lightning and other oddities are visible all around. The main character, paying attention to all this, cannot understand what just happened. The dissatisfied demon says that this was the main ritual when the master gives the servant an eternal name, and it can no longer be changed. The Demon King is very angry. He doesn't understand why the guy couldn't give him a beautiful and daring name. Li Yifan himself is very angry, and tells him that he himself didn't know that he could do something like that. The brown-haired man is tired of this conversation, so he simply puts the disgruntled demon back on himself and makes him understand that he did not tell him anything about the ritual. And besides, it is his own fault that he forgot his real name. Having put the bag on himself, Li Yifan continues to walk towards his house along the path. On the way, he wondered what sin he had committed that the gods punished him like that. Meanwhile, the demon looks dissatisfied. While Yifan and the demon were silently walking towards the house, the demon suddenly became interested in what the word imbecile means. He turned to the guy with this question, because he had thought about it for a long time, but could not understand the meaning. The brown-haired man heard him, but he decided not to spoil the demon's mood and says that it's better for him not to know. The demon was not satisfied with the guy's answer, and he demands a normal answer from him. Meanwhile, while the guy was conducting a dialogue with his bag, his attention was attracted by someone's voice, which addressed the main character by name and asked whether he was learning magic tricks or practicing ventriloquism. Turning around, he sees a man in blue clothes who has climbed and is sitting on one of the branches of a tall tree, trying to make out this man. Li Yifan recognized him as his strange uncle. The man paused on the tree so that the boy could successfully see him and understand who he really was, after which, despite the height, this strange man jumps from the tree instead of going down normally. Li Yifan, seeing how his uncle jumped from a 7-meter height, realized how cool he was. Then he notices that this man is starting to approach and use a technique already familiar to him. A strange man in blue clothes looked at the guy with his sly look, after which he silently accelerated directly in his direction, intending to do something unknown to him. The main character saw the bad intentions of his uncle. From the expression on his face, you can understand that he was slightly tense and did not want him to test his technique on him, so he asked him not to approach. In the next chapter, we can see that this uncle delivered his blow directly to the poor guy. It is clear that the brown-haired man was in pain. Even the Demon King is not happy with such a greeting from this man. You can see how Li Yifan fell to the ground after the blow and rolled a few more meters. A satisfied guy in blue clothes calls him a weakling and says that he won't do that, because not only did he not go to university, he is also weak in body. Further, Lao Yifan has already managed to get to his feet, but cannot fully straighten up. As he is trying to catch his breath after being hit in the stomach, his uncle tells him that he could not even withstand his light attack. Blue-Eyed noticed the guy's helplessness and decides to play a trick on him. He says that if Li Yifan works at a construction site, he won't even be able to carry bricks there given his current strength. The dissatisfied protagonist begins to shout at the blue-eyed man. Considering him sick, he does not want him to beat him every time he meets. The fact that he is older than the brown-haired man does not mean that he can beat him constantly. The guy in the blue robe begins to examine Li Yifan's body and is surprised that he didn't feel hurt at all, because he usually lies on the ground and cries. He also noticed his bag and calls it ugly. Then they stopped examining the main character. He begins to touch himself and is surprised that he really did not feel pain, but does not know why. He begins to think that perhaps he has become stronger. Starting to look at his hand, the guy went deeper into his thoughts. He begins to assume that his body has become stronger because of the contract he entered into with the Demon King. The guy in the robe begins to leave, praising him and telling him to follow him, because they still have a lot of training to do. Li Yifan is annoyed that this guy is only a couple of days older than him, and is already mocking him and calling himself uncle. The two of them pass near the local residents. They think that these two are returning to the village and ask if Yifan entered the university, because they want to celebrate this. The guy in the robe says that he did not enter. People were upset because of this. The main character, who has been walking behind his relative all this time, is very upset after what he heard. He does not understand how such a person is considered his family, because he touches him right to the quick. While they are walking towards their house together, Li Yifan decides to ask the imbecile demon what happened and why he didn't feel pain. The demon heard the guy and is going to give him his answer. The imbecile says that because of the contract he gives away half of his power. He was a great demon, and now he has turned into a dwarf servant, and even so he gives him a lot of power, and Li Yifan wastes his mana. Li Yifan does not understand what kind of mana we are talking about. Meanwhile, he notices how some farmer comes up to his uncle named Laotians and tells him to come back quickly, because his house is somehow noisy now. The main character, together with the Laotians, hurriedly headed towards their home. Li Yifan already heard the voice of his mother on the threshold, to whom he says that he would never agree to anything. The guy does not understand what could have happened. Entering the house, the guy notices his mother, grandfather, and apparently also his father, who were distracted by him. The brown-haired man asks his mother what happened here, because he became very interested. The old stump paid attention to the return of his grandson. He is very happy about this because now everyone is finally gathered and he can start what he wanted to start for a very long time. It turns out that the grandfather wanted to pass on his heritage. To the surprise of everyone, he says that from this day on, the Laotians accept the Taoist heritage and become the master of the family. The satisfied Lao is very happy with his grandfather's words and simply smiles, but Yifan pretends that he doesn't care about this, because his grandfather was a fake Taoist and deceived people for money. But it seems that deep down, the guy is jealous. Next, the grandfather bangs his hookah pipe to attract the attention of the whole family. He says that in order to cultivate his abilities, they must buy a soul stone, which costs 500,000 yuan, and the money must be found quickly. Mother does not agree with this, since only their family must give money. After all, there are others, especially if Yifan has to go to university. It will be expensive to buy a soul stone, in which case they will have nothing to eat. All this time, the brown-haired man listened to the conversations of adults. He also heard about the soul stone, and remembers that he also needs it. But his grandfather is a fake Taoist, and because of this, he thinks that he is deceiving them. The gloomy grandfather, like a real leader, hit the table and tells the father of the family to control his wife, because women in the family are not given a word, and since Yifan did not go to university, then let him go to work. The guy fearfully tells his grandfather that it is not for him to decide issues related to his future. Besides, he is a fake Taoist and everyone knows about it. The brown-haired man does not understand what heritage we are talking about and what soulstone he is talking about because he is a deceiver. The boy's father scolds the guy for such words towards his grandfather and says that he could lose his relationship. Yifan is unhappy that he is not even allowed to study and is forced to go to work. Meanwhile, the grandfather calmed everyone down. Heading to the exit from the house, the gray-haired man says that he knew that they would not believe him, so he decides to invite them with him to show what the girl's grandfather himself is capable of. Thereby, he can prove that he is right. The family passes near a bunch of people who are sitting at tables. People seeing them say that the banquet has already begun and do not understand where they are going. The girls say that he will be back soon. People will be looking forward to it. Then they begin to walk along some strange path. Dry trees without leaves are visible all around, and the main character, looking around the surroundings, understands that they are going to an earthly temple, but does not understand why. Meanwhile, the bag in which the demon has moved is still sitting silently on the guy, but suddenly the Demon King begins to feel that the demonic aura is becoming thicker. The girl is about to open the door, and turning to the earthly master says that he brought his children to show them the truth. He asks to take care of them. The king of demons feels the energy from that goddess. After his important words, the gray-haired grandfather turns to his family and asks them to follow him, after which he begins to open the large lock of this door with his key. The old stump with a serious look begins to slowly open the door and makes it clear to all these people that now the evidence that they so badly want to see will appear to them. Grandfather fell silent for a while, then forcefully opened this very door. The whole family was shocked by what they saw right now. But the Lao looked completely calm, as if he knew everything. It turned out that people saw a huge demon in some kind of flask. The girl says that this is proof that he is a real Taoist. This picture is very shocking to everyone. The people in the room simply have no words about this. Li Yifan does not understand what kind of canned wonder this is, and remembers the liquid that his grandfather constantly drank, and understands that he took it from here. The Demon King himself simply couldn't stand it. He, enraged, silently jumps off the protagonist's shoulders, intending to take some measures. The brown-haired man doesn't understand what the hell he's doing now. This red-haired man turned from a bag, back into his dwarf form and sitting on the guy's shoulders. He tells everyone that this is the desecration of demons. The brown-haired man is angry at his actions, and his mother is surprised by the presence of a living demon. Laos can't just look at how some demon dared to disturb his family. Like a real Marvel superhero, he decides to stop this villain and show who's boss. It can be seen that the demon doesn't care that they are now running at him to kick his ass. He just begins to charge some kind of sphere near his mouth in order to do something. Whether Yifan is not satisfied with his behavior. Next, you can see how a huge fiery ray flies from heaven directly into the building in which the whole family was located, which is about to break through the roof of this building. Li Yifan told the demon to stop, but it was too late. In the next chapter, we can see how this building is completely destroyed. After that huge beam, Laos looks very scared, and Li Yifan is very surprised at the strength of this imbecile demon. Apparently all this fear in the face of the Laotian was false. He abruptly begins to point his finger at the scratch right on his forehead and makes it clear to the demon that he injured him so he can be proud of himself. The guy in the robe never received any answer, after which he begins to laugh like a madman and his girl's grandfather approaches him, who, paying attention to his behavior, asks him to calm down. Li Yifan sees that the situation is heating up, so he asks everyone to just talk calmly, because they are a family. The imbecile sits on the guy's head and thinks that the Laotians are crazy, or he's an idiot in life. From the crazy expression on the protagonist's uncle's face, you can understand that he's not going to calm down. He looks straight at the guy and says that he can't do this, because right now he's extremely excited. Then this fool begins to accelerate and run straight towards the poor main character. The guy in the robe doesn't even think about the consequences. He says that he restrained himself for 12 years for the sake of his legacy. The Laotians actually ran up to Li Yifan and hit him. The guy did not expect this, but managed to block. His uncle says that Li Yifan taught art in a bright classroom, while he himself was just fighting. The brown-haired man continues to stand and block his uncle's blows. Realizing that he is really strong, the guy wants to increase his defense and asks the imbecile if he can be turned into a hammer or something else. The Demon King says that it is possible, but only on one condition if the guy knows this thing well, and they will also have to use this technique together. So it's time for Yifan to come up with something. The main character reacted to his words instantly. Being determined, he tells the demon to grab his left hand and become a shield. The red-haired one fulfilled his request with great joy. It can be seen how the Demon King quickly turned into a shield. He tells the brown-haired man that he can finish off his uncle without any problems. Li Yifan says that these are the affairs of his family, so let him not command here. Meanwhile, the Lao strikes the shield. He expresses his dissatisfaction with the fact that the main character had a quiet childhood. He lived and played League of Legends, while the Lao only broke his bones as a child. The dark-haired man, having hit the shield, does not understand how the demon could turn into him. He also reminds the brown-haired man that in high school he fell in love with a neighbor and thought that no one knew about it, but he continued to break bones. While the main character is defending himself from his relative, he decided to look at the reaction of the rest of the family. He saw that they were pretending that there was nothing to do with it and realized that they also knew about his secret at school. Then the brown-haired man, realizing that his main secret was revealed, falls into a rage and, having gained strength, decides to attack his offender so that he knows that his secrets should not be told to anyone. Li Yifan, having delivered a hard blow with his shield directly to his uncle's face, pretends that he doesn't care that the secret is revealed. Meanwhile, the guy in the robe flies several meters back due to the blow. He throws a kick which the Laotians were able to block. The brown-haired man asks why he cares about the games he played and the girls he loved, and is waiting for an explanation from this abnormal person. The guy in the robe, trying to recover from a series of heavy blows, heard the words of his nephew and gives his answer. He says that he always hated Li Yifan, and wants to say why exactly. Laotian, standing on his own 2 feet, tells the main character that he always wanted to have the same life as his. But all his life he was an ordinary hillbilly who did not have access to all this luxury. The beaten uncle tells the brown-haired man that he was very happy when he brought a living demon with him. Li Yifan looks somehow puzzled after listening to his relative. Laos explains his joy by saying that he had never seen demons before, and right now he was lucky enough to see a living demon for the first time in person, and he simply could not contain his emotions. Blue Eyes, clenching his fist, makes it clear to everyone in this room that right now he is going to finish off the demon in order to become a real Taoist. From his appearance, you can understand that he is determined. Meanwhile, the Demon King begins to study his opponent. It's just funny to him, because the Laotians are just another simpleton with a Liangqi level of 2, so he won't be able to defeat him no matter how hard he tries. The guy in the robe got into his fighting stance and is about to use his more powerful techniques. Right now, he is using the Absolute Kill technique and 5 Lightning Demon Heart Destruction. Next, we are shown the rest of the family members, who are shocked by the actions of Laos. The girl did not expect that he would start killing. Li Yifan's mother tries to shout to him and tells him to run away from here. However, Yifan doesn't care about his mother's words. He is under no circumstances going to run away from here, and says that he is not the same as before and has endured him for too long, so he is going to take this fight. Having charged his powerful fist, the brown-haired man flies straight into his uncle and tries to hit him, but this guy is not simple. He was able to catch the protagonist's fist and is trying to hold him back. Further, you can understand that the Lao could not cope with such a blow, and even despite the fact that he was able to catch this fist, he was still thrown far away from the guy, and he broke something with his landing. The Laotians could not even stop such a technique. After falling to the ground, he quickly came to his senses and said that the strength was very good. But without the help of a demon, Li Yifan was simply nothing. Suddenly, absolutely all family members and even the main character himself began to look very frightened. They did not pay attention to the words of the guy in the blue robe and only silently looked at something behind him. Laos looks very unhappy that he was ignored, but he looks into their faces and sees that they are frightened by something. He asks what happened to them because he just can't understand. Li Yifan is still shocked, and seeing that his uncle still does not understand what is happening, asks him to turn around, turning back. The Laotians notice a huge green demon with evil intentions. The guy in the blue robe, of course, noticing this monster immediately got scared. He quickly reacted to it and, frightened, abruptly jumped back to his family, not understanding what kind of creature it was. The red-eyed monster is unhappy that he was attacked, taking advantage of his weak point, and then turned into an alcoholic drink, so now he is going to take revenge on these people. The green monster is glad that he is finally free. This can be understood by his smile, and he is also pleased that now he has the opportunity to take revenge on those who imprisoned him in this vessel. In the next chapter, we again see the purple-haired girl, along with her animal named Xiao Bai. The girl understands that the family is in trouble. Xiao Bai asks her whether it is worth reporting this to the committee against evil spirits. The serious girl says that they don't have time. She offers to report this to them on the way. Xiao Bai, meanwhile, feels very hungry and says that she is hungry. Then we again see the same building in which the main character and his family are sitting. It's already night outside, and more creatures are crawling towards this building, apparently because they hear sounds from there. The events are transferred inside this building. You can see how the monster is trying to grab the main character, and the brown-haired man, in turn, is very scared and just looks at it, because he can't do anything. The monster grabbed Li Yifan and, lifting him up, began to choke him. He said that he had been sleeping for hundreds of years and had not tasted a person for a long time, so now he will have a real banquet, and he is happy about it. You can see how the parents are very worried about their son. They are holed up in the corner of the building. His mother already wants to run up to help her child, and her husband stops her, because now they will not be able to help and they themselves may die. We see how the Lao, despite the fact that some time ago he had a fight with his nephew, plucks up courage and runs to the aid of his friend, saying that only he can offend him. However, this monster turned out to be not an easy one. He noticed a man running towards him, shouted at him to get lost, and with some purple waves he easily pushed him away from him. It can be seen that from these very waves, the guy in the blue robe flew off quite strongly. He landed on the ground and continued to slide along it right to the feet of the girl's grandfather. The gray-haired one noticed this. The old man is not happy that this demon right now poses a threat to the life of his family. This sage takes out some kind of yellow ticket and asks everyone not to be afraid because he has everything under control and he can subdue him. Devanki begins to perform some kind of ritual with this object and says that this is the land of the gods, the most spiritual of all, rising to the heavens and reaching the earth, emerging from the underworld. You can see how this grandfather succeeded. With the help of this ritual, he was able to summon some kind of giant who looks like an old man and directs him to destroy a huge green demon. Of course, the giant listened to the girl. Without much hesitation, he immediately pointed his huge fist straight at the green monster. The blow was delivered, but unexpectedly the huge fist was destroyed on the demon's head. The old stump paid attention to this and realized that the earth god whom he had summoned was destroyed. He realized that after this, he would not be able to do anything to the demon, and was already very scared because he did not expect this. The strong demon did not like this attitude towards him, after which he begins to run after the rest of the family members to kick their ass, while he is not even going to let the main character go. Dissatisfied, Li Yifan, who is still in the hands of the green demon, is very angry that his grandfather could not save him and invites him to come up with something else as soon as possible. Further, you can notice that grandfather and uncle no longer care about Yifan's words. They are only thinking about how they can save their precious life. They are trying to escape from the monster. Over time, the demon got tired of running after them, and he decides to feast on the guy. Li Yifan turns to the imbecile and tells him to do something, because if the brown-haired guy dies, then the demon will die too. The guy reached out for this red-haired one, and he says that he just spent too much energy, so he needs to rest a little. The demon wants to say something else, but the guy has already grabbed him. Having not come up with anything better, the brown-haired man begins to shove the imbecile into the green monster's mouth and tells him to turn into something, or else he will be a plug in the mouth of this ugly creature. While the main character was trying to stuff the Demon King into the green monster's mouth, his attention was attracted by an unknown female figure who gracefully burst into this building to save everyone. It turned out that it was the same purple-haired girl. However, she did not come alone, but with some pink-haired friend. They are both glad that they were finally able to find the main character and will be able to help him. The pink-haired girl immediately began to evaluate the green monster. She didn't even feel scared by his appearance. She only understood that they would give a lot of soul stones for this demon and they would get rich. Li Yifan, seeing these girls, began to consider them real beauties and was even embarrassed because they were also so different. The guy was also pleased by the fact that these girls came here to save him. Meanwhile, the green demon, looking like a Grinch on steroids, didn't waste any time. He spat the imbecile out of his mouth and considers him disgusting, and says that since he doesn't know how to fight, then at least let him not interfere. The red-haired one, who had just flown out of the monster's mouth, found himself covered in drool. He felt disgusted and he called his mouth stinky, because now he was dirty from head to toe. Next, the demon turns his attention to the pink-haired girl. He calls her and says that her breasts and butt are very good, so he invites her to start a symbiosis, expecting an answer from her. However, this girl has completely different plans. She did not come here on a date, but to deal with him, she makes him understand this and says that the Committee Against Evil Spirits will destroy him. Meanwhile, Laotians and girls are watching all these events from a safe distance. The name of the Committee Against Evil Spirits seems familiar to the grandfather, and the uncle wants to know about it because it sounds cool. It can be seen how the girl carried out her first attack on this demon. This time it forced him to let go of Li Yifan, and he understands that he cannot defeat her, because her level is too high. Suddenly, the pink-haired girl's stomach began to growl. She paid attention to it and stopped. She realizes that this is all not good, and that something will happen now. The purple-haired girl also drew attention to this, seeing that her friend stopped. She saw that something was wrong here, as if she knew what was going to happen and simply did not believe it. It turned out that this pink-haired girl was Xiao Bai, who took on a human form. It is clear that she turned back into a small and cute animal, asking everyone for forgiveness, because it was because she wanted to eat. All the members, seeing this strange scene, simply fell into shock, seeing that their savior had turned into a small beast, and the green demon, meanwhile, exhales with relief, because it seems like no one can stop him now. Li Yifan, as you can see, is still in shock after what he saw. He cannot believe that their last hope for salvation just disappeared, and now it seems like the end for them. The next chapter begins, and we see how the green demon decides to attack Li Yifan again, because he was in captivity, did not eat food, and did not have fun with the girls, and all this because of the family of this brown-haired man. Fortunately for the guy, a purple-haired woman stood in front of him. She was determined and asked him to step away and hide, because she herself could cope with the aggressive monster and save them all. It can be seen how she tried to strike him, but he managed to catch her with his hand, which created a shockwave that pushed away everyone who was very close. This Grinch is very confident in his abilities. He believes that he can easily defeat this girl. He is surprised that she decided to stop this mountain of muscles with her fragile body. He understands that she does not have a chance. The purple-haired girl realized that she really couldn't do anything to this strong man, so she stopped for a while and asked a certain squirrel to change her form so that she could become stronger and be able to defeat him. You can see how this girl began to transform. She had a thick, beautiful tail and cool horns. Now you might think that she has become stronger and is completely ready to fight the monster. The Demon King and the main character are watching this girl. Seeing that she has reincarnated, they begin to look at her with their eyes in love, because they receive visual pleasure from her forms. Having fully gained strength, the girl rushes at the huge green monster and strikes him with her fist. The monster is a little surprised right now, but she won't leave it that easily. Next, the purple-haired girl, just like some cat, begins to lick her hand and says that she hasn't hunted for a long time, but today she can enjoy this process together with this demon. Red Eyes looks very furious after this blow. Because he was hit by a girl in front of everyone, he paid attention to her transformation and abilities, and says that it is immediately clear from her that she is a demoness. Next, the green monster himself begins his transformation in order to become stronger and increase his chances of defeating this girl. At this moment, he does not understand why she got involved with people. It can be seen how this giant demon was dissatisfied with his previous strength, so he decided to strengthen himself by injecting Trenbolone into his body. He does not understand why the girl betrayed her own race. This genius gathered himself into some kind of ball. His whole back was covered in sharp thorns, after which he began to accelerate towards the girl, because in his opinion such creatures should not exist. The girl was not even afraid when she saw such a reception from this monster. She only told him not to dare to insult the squirrel, and kicked him off her feet to show that she was not going to tolerate him. However, the green madman with a spiky back is really not simple. He has upgraded not only his strength, but also his reflexes. He catches her leg and says that she is insulting him so cutely that she is about to vomit. When the demon grabbed the girl by the leg, he realized that now he could do anything with her, so he decided to throw her into the wall with all his might, wishing death for everyone. The girl understands that he is strong enough. Next, this strong man quickly approaches this girl. He tries to strike with his fist, and this militant purple-haired one successfully blocks him, despite all his strength. After this, some kind of explosion occurred, which knocked the Laotians and the girls off their feet. They look at the explosion and they wonder what the result of this whole fierce battle will be. They want the girl to win. It can be seen how the green monster began to dominate the battle with this girl. He struck her with his huge fist right in the face. She, being helpless, simply flies back a few meters. While in flight, the purple-haired girl is unable to control herself, so she crashes straight into the main character, who was watching their fight at the time, and knocks him down. After the purple-haired one stopped, she felt a little embarrassed because her huge cannonballs rested right in Li Yifan's face. He gets incredible pleasure and is surprised at their size. The girl can no longer stand the embarrassment and, grabbing the guy, decides to show that he is doing wrong and very angrily asks this bastard where he is looking. It feels like he had a choice. Confused and at the same time frightened, the brown-haired man turns away from the dangerous girl and stutteringly tells her that he wasn't looking anywhere at all. It's clear how he's trying to excuse himself so that the girl doesn't kick his ass. The Demon King says that the guy has now filled him with fiery energy, and he knows what the guy was thinking. The Demon King reminds Li Yifan that he can turn this red-haired guy into anything. The brown-haired man became even more embarrassed. He says that he didn't think about anything like that and says that the imbecile is talking complete nonsense. But you can clearly see that this loser imagined a muscular body, as well as how he roasts this girl. Then you can see how the red-haired man can no longer stand it, and with a menacing cry begins to tear all his clothes. He says he wants to release all his energy as soon as possible. The Demon King can be seen taking on his true form and running straight towards the surprised green monster. He tells him to hide already, because right now the red-haired one will kick his ass. Having overtaken the green monster, the Demon King presses him to the wall in the same way as Li Yifan pressed the purple-haired one in his dreams. The green monster understands where this is going and is embarrassed. The Lavos and the girls watching this saw this. The young guy didn't think that demons had such addictions. Grandfather says that they should be ashamed, because they do this in broad daylight. The green monster tries to drive him away, realizing that the red-haired one doesn't care at all who gets pleasure from him. The green-haired one is dissatisfied with his actions, because he himself is a real man. The Grinch on steroids tried to hit the Demon King, but thanks to his reflexes, he managed to grab his leg, lift him above him, and hit the villain right in his balls so that he knew his place. In the next chapter, we see how the green monster got very angry. He pushed the red-haired one away and is about to strike him, because he felt offended by his balls, so it's time to take revenge. Our red-haired Demon King took notice of the blow his opponent was about to throw, so he reacted in time and tried to strike back, but the fists of these two powerful creatures collided. The bodies of the two could not withstand the energy that was released after their fist clashed, so they both flew in opposite directions and collided with the wall. Red Eyes realizes that this battle is very difficult for him, and he can lose here. So he decides to take out his trump card and says that he will have to use his true skill. You can see how he is preparing. The purple-haired girl paid attention to his techniques and, having pushed the guy away, does not understand what this strong, unclean aura is. Li Yifan is dissatisfied with the fact that he was hit, because he just looked at his chest and not on purpose. Red Eyes decides to give his answer to the beautiful girl's question. He says that this is a demonic treasure, and with the help of this skill, he will be able to catch them all and use them for his own purposes. The red-haired one with a calm look approached him and asked, "Since he is so cool, then why was he caught and locked here?" With this question, he attracted the attention of the purple-haired demon. The words of the Demon King made this horned one suddenly think. He remembered something not so good from his life. Apparently, he associates this sentence with this moment. These words really hurt the green demon. He says that this imbecile talks too much unnecessary things, so he is already using his new technique on him, wishing him a speedy death. It can be seen how this blue ray, previously released by the green demon, has already overtaken the red-haired one. He feels unpleasant sensations and tries to resist in order to survive. But this is very difficult for him. The main character with purple hair is watching this whole nightmare. They hear how the Demon King could not cope with this attack and begins to scream loudly and seems to be sucked somewhere. A smart girl noticed how the red-haired demon could not get out of this trap, so she realized that things were bad and grabbed the guy and began to run away. Li Yifan did not want to say goodbye to his friend. Next, we see a long yellow beam, around which there is a blue beam that moves around it, and it is not yet completely clear what exactly is happening. Suddenly, a huge fiery ray flies into this building again, which is aimed at the building directly from the sky. It again pierced the roof and caused even greater destruction. It turned out that this is so. This building is now going through not the best of times. From this ray, there is not a living place left from it. The fragments of the building are scattered all around. However, a green monster crawled out of this building. He was very happy. Because he merged his body with the treasure, the gray-haired old man distilled moonshine from him, but forgot to take his treasure out of him. Coming out of the destroyed building, the green monster begins to look around, and he notices in the distance the purple-haired one with the main character, who are running away together. He will not let them go so easily, and uses his ability. This blue sphere turned out to be too fast. When the guy turned around at the sound, he saw that it was already close enough and he would not have time to dodge. The purple-haired one also turned her attention to this. Next, this blue sphere, instead of harming the main character, begins to move into him directly through his forehead. The green demon with horns is very surprised by this turn of events, because he did not expect this. While this Grinch on steroids was watching Li Yifan and wondering what just happened recently, the Laotians thought that this was the perfect chance for an attack and, armed with a stick, decided to sneak up on the demon. The guy struck as hard as he could, but the stick simply broke and did not even cause any damage to the monster. He only felt unpleasant and began to consider this guy a real rat because of his attack. It turned out that behind the green demon there was a whole family. The Laotians with a broken stick are standing in real shock. He cannot believe that his attack did not cause him damage, and now all the people began to fear for their lives. We are again shown the main character with purple hair. She, seeing his not in the best condition, asks if he is okay. We can also see the king of demons, with whom everything seems to be okay. Li Yifan heard the question of this beauty. With the last of his strength, he answers that he wants to sleep, and is already closing his eyes. The girl still cannot understand what is happening to him and is worried. The guy is already completely exhausted. Having fallen asleep, he falls right into the cores of this beauty. She is very surprised by this, and already thinks that he is deliberately pretending to touch her breasts again. However, the girl continues to hold the guy, expressing her concern. She begins to get angry at the green demon and does not understand how he dared to try to kill people in front of her eyes, so for these actions, he will have no mercy. The girl lays Yifan carefully on the ground, while the green monster noticed them and is already approaching. The determined girl promises him to show her true strength and kick his green ass. Unexpectedly for the monster, some kind of hologram appears behind him, which explodes very quickly and causes damage to this villain. He understands that the girl is very serious. Violet Hair continues to use her magic against the demon, and he began to look helpless in battle against her, and only endures her series of attacks. Apparently she has become stronger, because she wants to protect people. Now, after some time, you can see that the green demon was defeated. From his appearance, you would think that he seemed to have been driven over by a roller. He now only lies helplessly on the ground. Further, you can notice that a detachment of demon hunters came to this whole party. Their leader said to the purple-haired woman named Ying Shui that it is not in vain that she serves the army. It is clear that she has become very strong. The leader, paying attention to the defeated demon as well as his injuries, understands that the girl gave her all. He praises her and says that for the first time he saw the legendary back kick of the Tang family. As soon as Ying Shui wanted to answer this guy, he immediately began to return to his old form because the battle was over, and she also saw the silhouette of a girl next to her. It turned out that it was Xiao Bai. She asks Ying Shui for forgiveness because she was too hungry and therefore let her down. The purple-haired one forgives her because they were still able to complete their task. The leader waited until the two friends finished their dialogue and decided to say something else. He thanked Ying Shui for the work done and said that now they will take care of the rest themselves. The girl asks the commander named Lun Ke why they came exactly when the demon was defeated. He says that they came here right after they received an order from their superiors. Sirius looks straight at the girl and tells her that the commanders discovered strange energy flows in this place. It was after this that they were given the order to move out, which is why they were late. While the commander and the girl were carrying on their dialogue, suddenly the Laotians were grabbed by the paw of that same green demon. He does not understand what is happening and tries to resist, not knowing the demon's intentions. It turned out that this green demon realized that he had already lost and everything could end badly for him, so in this way he entered into a contract with Laos. The situation is just like the main character. Of course, everyone around was very surprised by this, because they did not even expect that the demon would move at all after such a fierce battle. And then he also made a strange decision by concluding a contract. You can see how the huge green demon got to his feet and bared his teeth as if he was starting to transform. Apparently, he understands that everything is under control, and he is doing absolutely the right thing. Next, this previously huge demon repeated the fate of the red-haired demon king, and having also concluded a contract, became very small, and he was also very happy, because after all this, he remained fine. The actions of the new chapter take place in the Department of Control of Evil Spirits. It can be seen how the commander and his group have tied up the whole family with demons and are taking them somewhere. Li Yifan wants them to be released, but Long Ke is in no hurry to do this. They are all being carried into some very strange room. The main character noticed this and decides to check with these people where they are now and what they want to do with them. Yingshu tells the curious guy that they are in the Evil Spirits Control Department, and he and the Laotians broke the law by concluding a contract with demons. Meanwhile, the guard hurries the main character. Long Ke looks somehow too happy. He took out some strange object and, starting to look at this group, does not understand why he should chat with them. It would be better to get down to business, because he understands this. The commander stood very menacingly in front of the Laotians, holding the same object in his hands. He remembered that the guy in the robe had recently signed a contract with the demon, so let him quickly explain why he did it and what he was planning. The guy in the blue robe is dissatisfied with Long Ke's interrogation methods, trying to remain calm. He asks him why they are behaving like bandits if this is an official department. Hearing the word official, something occurred to this stupid commander. He puts on a red tie and asks if he looks more serious. The Lao says yes, but he put on the tie crookedly. Apparently the tie influenced the Laotians, to say all he knows. He says that he subdued this demon, and the strangest thing is that after subjugation, he completely recovered from his wounds. Long Ke listened to the answer with an important look. After hearing this, he realized that he no longer needed the tie, and decided to simply take it off, after which he began to laugh loudly and calling the guy an idiot, and saying that the demon had deceived him. The commander says that there is now a slave contract between the two of them, and as long as he is alive, the Laotians will live. To terminate it, they need seals, soul stones, and a high level of cultivation, and the termination takes place in the temple of the demonic emperor. The guy in the robe listened to Long Ke and realized what a mistake he had made. He doesn't understand why everything is so complicated, and realized that the demon had deceived him, saying that this was a contract for submission. The green one pretended that it had nothing to do with it. Long Ke decides to turn to Yingshui and says that the rest is up to her, and he will go make a report. But he also adds that energy fluctuations were caused not only by demons, but also by something else. Yingshui approaches Li Yifan and says that his family has kept a demon for a long time, and he also entered into a contract with another demon. It turns out that he violated the law of protecting human safety and will be punished. The brown-haired man tries to justify himself. He doesn't want to experience capital punishment, and remembering how he simply stepped on a dirty puddle on the street, he says that he didn't want to enter into a contract. The demon forced him. The girl drew attention to this, given the fact of disagreement and the fact that he did not have time to commit crimes. As a punishment, he will serve in their department for 3 years. Lao says that he is a victim and does not understand why he should serve. You can see how Yingshui is right now removing the handcuffs from the hands of the main character. Meanwhile, he stands motionless and understands that the main thing is that he managed to survive, and serving is not such a problem for him. After the purple-haired one took off the handcuffs, she sat down on the sofa with an important look along with Xiao Bai and, turning to a certain Li Si, said that she could begin the registration process. The guy is very happy that the handcuffs have finally been removed from him. He asks Yingshui to stay here alone with her to have a special conversation with him. Apparently, he wants to repeat the scene from his head. The girl didn't really pay any attention to the Sigma's proposal. She just does her job and asks him if the guy has any unusual feelings in his body right now. Li Yifan expected to hear a slightly different answer, but he is going to answer her question. He begins to touch himself all over his body and says that there seem to be no unusual feelings. Yingshui, sitting on the sofa, reminds the guy about the aura that has entered his body and says that he has never met such a force. It seems that this aura can absorb her, and perhaps this is not good. The brown-haired man decides to lift his outerwear and lower his pants. This fool showing his panties with SpongeBob asks where this aura went. Apparently, he got a little worried. It can be seen how Yingshui suddenly became somehow dissatisfied. She doesn't like the fact that the guy started to undress right here and reprimanded him. After all, this is an official place, and she needs to behave well. Li Yifan, of course, listened to the girl and quickly put his clothes back on. Straightening his clothes, he decides to remind her that he really does not have any strange sensations inside his body. The purple-haired girl clearly understood everything. She decides to give him a couple of things. First, she puts a bracelet on him, which is a sensor of an unclean aura. If a surge is observed, the sensor will notify about it. Next, the serious girl decides to give the guy a certain book, which is actually a reminder for a beginner. If the guy wants to survive in this cruel world, then he should seriously take up studying it. It turns out that in the meantime, this family is being monitored by the leadership of this committee directly through the cameras. Long K reports to the boss that a surge of energy disappeared in the earthly temple, but appeared here. The boss says that Li Yifan's body was checked. We are shown the events that take place outside this building. Some kind of energy is formed in the sky, and the boss asks everyone to convey his order to block all data related to Li Yifan. Then the events move to the handsome man we already know. Apparently he created a doll that is very similar to Qin Shui. He strokes it and pretends to do all sorts of obscenities with it. We are shown the figurine of this woman. This man continues to stroke her and imagine how he lives with her in his apartment. The doll itself is dressed in underwear, and the man asks the girl to wait for him. In the next chapter, we see how Yifan and the Layouts gave out military badges. The brown-haired man began to examine him and asks if he has already joined the army and if he can consider himself here. The red-haired man is dissatisfied with the fact that Yifan is being drafted into the army. He says that when the guy wears this crap, it harms him, while the red-haired man also has this badge on his neck. Next, the Demon King decides to turn to the Green Demon and asks his new friend what his name is. He also says that when a contract is concluded, the demon is given a name. The green one says that he does not have a name yet. The Laotians notice the dialogue of the demons. He smiles and says and remembers that they met in the village, so without hesitation he is going to call him a hillbilly. Next, the guy received a notification that the name had been established. He was unhappy with this because he just wanted to make fun. The green kid looks very angry and doesn't understand why the hell he did it. The red-haired man saw this whole funny situation. He felt very funny, and he knew that this would happen. The red-haired man himself went through all this and experienced approximately the same emotions. An hour has passed. We see the main character diligently studying the beginner's instruction manual, thinking that with the help of this instruction, he will become a cultivator. But of course it would be better if he prepared for his exams in the same way. The Demon King tells the guy that he has heard how people gain inner strength through meditation, so he invites the main character to try. And what if it works out, and then all the girls will definitely be his? The guy liked the words of this demon. He already imagines how a beauty in open clothes approaches him, and taking his hand asks him to become her boyfriend, and he replies that he will think about it, whether Yifan considers such an outcome of events possible. The Demon King, of course, saw what Li Yifan was imagining in his head right now. He paid attention to the girl, and approaching the pleased guy, decides to clarify who she is. Li Yifan was not taken aback and gave him his answer. He says that this girl's name is Qing Shui, and she is his friend from childhood, and in his memories he bought her sharp chopsticks as a gift. Next we see how someone starts knocking loudly on the door. The person who knocks asks if Yifan is at home now. It is not yet clear what this person wants from the guy. This voice seemed very familiar to the main character. Apparently he knew that he was knocking on this door, and this made him feel much better, and he was about to approach the door. Approaching the door, he opened it. It turned out that Shui was standing there, imagining himself as a model, stood in a hot pose and asked the girl if she really missed him on such a beautiful day. However, in her hands there was the most talking little dog named Erto. He looks at the guy with his dangerous look and asks him if all these words were addressed to him. All of Yifan's attention turned to this brown dog. When he saw him, he remembered all these tricks and realized that he would ruin his whole moment. So he asks the dog to leave here, as if he would listen to him. Next, the girl is about to enter the house, but she stepped on an empty can of Coca-Cola, and from this she began to fall screaming right on the main character, simply knocking him down, and together they already begin to fall. However, the guy manages to grab the falling girl's hand. She has already forgotten about her dog. She simply sent her into free flight, trying to grab the guy's hand. Apparently, Yifan wants to seem like a gentleman. He grabbed Qing Shui's hand and apparently pulled it straight towards him. She starts flying towards him, and this time he really can't stay on his feet, so they are about to fall together. It turned out that Qing Shui fell straight into the guy's arms. This lucky guy took advantage of the moment and grabbed the girl as tightly as possible, feeling all the softness of her beautiful body. It turned out that the big dog came with the girl. This husky saw this whole strange scene and looked with his disapproving gaze, whether he thinks Yifan is even more preoccupied than the Arto dog. The girl continues to lie in the guy's arms right on the floor. She is already trying to get up, but she noticed that Ifan had grabbed her hair, so she asks him to let it go. The embarrassed guy asked for forgiveness and is going to let him go. Some strange person was watching this whole scene through his device. He sees exactly the moment when the girl lay down on the guy, and it already seems to him that they are about to start a scene from an adult movie. Who would have thought, but this strange man turned out to be a man we already knew. He looks very angry, not understanding how they dared. He watching this says that he can't wait any longer, so Qing Shui will soon be his. Next, we are shown two men. A guy in a black shirt says that they were told to keep an eye on Ifan, but nothing has happened to him yet. A man with binoculars tells him to work seriously and not whine. Then these men's plans changed. Instead of doing their job, they decide to just start staring at the beautiful girl who is right now in the same apartment with the main character. She tells Ifan that today is her birthday, and they usually always celebrate it together, so today he will not leave her. The husky understands that this fool did not prepare a gift. Erto considers him greedy and sees that he is hitting on the hostess. Li Yifan heard the words of this beauty. He realized that he had screwed up. Because he completely forgot about her birthday because of the evil spirit's control department, the last couple of days have been very difficult. While the guy is thinking, Qing Shui, meanwhile, just stands contentedly with her eyes closed. She expects a gift from this guy for her birthday, hoping that he hasn't forgotten anything. Suddenly, the main character noticed something behind the girl and warned her about it. Qing Shui slowly turned around and noticed something that slightly scared her in such a calm moment. It turned out that this is the same strange man who was tired of just watching Qing Shui and decided to act. This strong man knocked down the door and grabbed the girl. Wrapping her with his tongue, she just screams helplessly. In the next chapter, this monster holds the girl in his arms and licks her and says that she looks very innocent, but in fact she is not. She disappointed him for being easy on Li Yifan. This abnormal person continues to enjoy her body. He still licks her and feels very pleasant feelings. A very pleasant smell emanates from her. And he also paid attention to the splinter on her neck. The madman continues to enjoy all the minutes spent near the Qing Shui. He gets the feeling that he was taking a shower among the spring flowers, and this is very wonderful. Further, while this fool was in his thoughts, it seemed to him that he had stepped in some kind of mud. He paid attention to this, and because of this he looked very unhappy, because the whole moment was ruined. It turned out that the girl's dogs decided to save their owner. The husky bit this man's pod and tells him to let their owner go. Erto bites this monster's hand and promises to get him dirty. This loser with dog shit on his head looks very irritated, because he has been waiting for a long time to meet Qing Shui, and now these dogs are just bothering him. Being in a strong rage, the man threw the beauty aside with force and attacked the dogs. It seems to him that these animals want to become his food, and he already gets the feeling that the dogs need help. After a recent flight, a girl lands right next to the main character and hides behind him. He decides to show her the good side and tells her not to be afraid, because he will protect her. Li Yifan is very determined. He summons his demon imbecile because his time has come. The red-haired one is very happy. Apparently he has been waiting for this moment for a long time, and now they can kick the villain's ass. The main character looks completely calm. He is sure that he can cope with this man without any problems. However, Li Yifan does not want the imbecile to turn into a handsome jock again, otherwise he will take his neck away from him. Li Yifan throws this red-haired one straight towards the villain and gave him the command to turn into someone already. The Demon King is screaming in flight and is about to turn. You can see how he landed near the villain and is already beginning his transformation, but he takes on some new form that we have not seen before and do not yet know what he is capable of. Suddenly this Demon King turned into a Sailor Moon character. However, she is not simple, but on steroids he has become very hot, judging by his appearance, and is going to kick the villain's ass like that. It turned out that the Demon King himself did not expect that he would turn into Sailor Moon. He called Li Yifan a real idiot, because he turned him into something unknown. The red-haired man is ashamed and asks to return his appearance. While the red-haired man was ashamed of his new appearance, the handsome man decides to take advantage of the moment while he is distracted and strikes with his foot. The demon noticed him at the last moment and did not have time to do anything. You can see how the blow was delivered, and the imbecile flew away from him. The man with glasses is very angry and says that he barely found this fragment, so they don't dare interfere with him right now. However, our Sailor Moon is not going to give up so easily. She reacted in time and, instead of falling from the blow, managed to get to her feet and stop so as not to get damaged. The main character noticed that the imbecile was starting to lose and, being dissatisfied, told him to get up and quickly. Because you can't hurt Shuya, you need to save her from this maniac. The red-haired man heard Li Yifan's words. He answers the guy that it is easy for him to speak, because he is just observing and not participating in the battle, and this enemy is actually very strong. Suddenly, a bunch of magic swords appear behind the Demon King. He also feels some unusual feelings. He does not understand what is happening now, and wants to understand what it is. It turned out that the main character can control an imbecile, so the contract is very good. If so, now the guy will show what he is really capable of and show the maniac who is in charge. The man with glasses is not wasting his precious time. He only accelerated towards Li Yifan and the Demon King in order to deliver his blow at the moment while they, in his opinion, are distracted. Sailor Moon on steroids takes his huge sword and tells the main character that he has mastered the contract really well. This will greatly help them defeat the villain in this battle. Armed, the Demon King makes it clear to the villain in red shorts that he wants to take revenge. A huge hole in the wall appears behind the bad guy, and it seems that he is losing. The building begins to glow on the night streets because of all this magic and the battle that is taking place inside. Two men watching Li Yifan fly up on their dragonfly closer to get a better look. A black-haired guy with an erotic look watching this picture already thinks that they need to help. But his friend says that their task is to monitor whether Ifanem, and he's actually too lazy to help. We again see the events taking place in the building. The Demon King looks tired and considers his enemy stronger than he thought, and understands that he would not have disgraced himself so much if it were not for the contract that makes him weaker. Li Yifan begins to consider this situation too awkward and began to worry, because he thinks that after all these events the Shuyu will laugh at this. But this is not certain. These are just his assumptions. Next, you can see how the villain is already very angry. He is tired of wasting all his time and fighting with the Demon King. He decides to just take what he came here for to complete his task. This strange man says that he must get the shards, so without wasting his time, he suddenly rushes at Qing Shui again to collect the shards from her neck. But before that, he does not forget to lick her again. In the next chapter, we see how this strange man stands in front of the girl and seems to be about to attack with his large tail. The main character shouts to Qin Shui to try to dodge. The Demon King paid attention to this, and seeing that the girl needed help, he realized that he couldn't just stand and ran up to her and pushed her away from the villain so that he couldn't hit her with his blow. Li Yifan noticed how the girl began to fall and, like a real superhero, he caught her with his hands right in the air so that she would not fall on the hard ground. He asks if she is okay. Further, apparently, the Demon King could not cope with this man. So when he saw how the main character caught Qin Shui, he jumped straight on him to deliver his powerful blow because he interfered with him. Qing Shui saw the villain flying straight at them with his fist, and noticing how the guy was just standing there and not doing anything, she simply decided to push him away to help, because he had already helped her. Suddenly, it turned out that Qing Shui received a powerful blow from a man right in her back. Li Yifan looks very shocked. He wonders what will happen to the girl. Further, you can see that Qing Shui could not withstand such a blow, and being very weakened, falls straight into the arms of the main character. He, in turn, was stained with blood from her mouth and was very shocked. Seeing Shui's appearance, he already begins to cry, because he has begun to fear for the condition of his beloved. He sees how she is very weak and feels very bad, and this villain is to blame for all this. While the guy was grieving next to the wounded girl, the villain decided to take advantage of the moment and simply took the fragments tied to her neck. He looks at them and sees a pure evil aura, also sensing unprecedented power. The man is already drooling, looking at this thing. He says that he is upset because of the death of this beauty, but for the sake of this thing, he is ready to do anything, even such sacrifices. The dogs who saw the death of their mistress became very angry, and releasing their claws, they attacked this evil man, insulting him with various bad words and were going to tear him to pieces. You can see how the husky first grabbed the leg of this villain. It seems that the attacks of these dogs do not cause any damage to the maniac. This only begins to make him very angry. Meanwhile, the main character still continues to hold Qing Shui's lifeless body and grieve. He does not understand why everything happened exactly like this, why this villain treated her so cruelly. From his intense grief, Li Yifan begins to scream loudly. He remembers how he promised to protect her, but he could not do this, and now he simply hates himself for it. At this moment, he continues to cry. He remembers his childhood, how he spent fun time with her. We again see the moment how he gave her sharp sticks. Seeing the smile on her face, he felt like the happiest person on earth. In the same memories, Qing Shui begins to ask the main character why he shared this food with her, and wants to find out from him the real reason for these actions. Li Yifan began to feel embarrassed. He gained strength like a real man, and tells this beauty that he is doing all this because he really likes her and is waiting for her reaction. Qing Shuyu listened to Yifan. She still smiles and asks what it means that he likes her. The brown-haired man says that it means that he wants to be with her and protect her from all dangers. Then we return to the present. We see how the evil man deals with the dogs. He hit Ardo very hard and knocked out his tooth, while he holds the husky with one hand and strangles him. It is clear how he hates these dogs. Poor Artaud, having flown several meters, lands and slides along the floor straight to his owner, along with the main character, who still continues to silently grieve near her body. Arto, flying up to his owner, stopped next to her and realizing that his wounds were very fatal, he extended his paw to the owner and told her that he would leave with her. Stretching out his paw, the poor little dog sees his mistress in front of him, but not dead, but alive. This picture is very pleasant to him, and it seems that his whole life is flying before his eyes. Meanwhile, the husky is still in the hands of the evil man. The villain continues to strangle the poor dog, and he is already on the verge of death. But before that, he notices how his friend Ardo is dying and begins to worry about him. Next, we are shown the Demon King, who still looks like Sailor Moon. He says that he has spent all his power, and if this continues, he too may die in a similar way. It can be seen how the main character is still grieving over the girl's body. He took her and hugged her tightly, remembering how he promised to protect her. It seems that Ifan is starting to get angry and really wants to take revenge for his loved ones. Meanwhile, two men outside the house are still watching what is happening inside the building. The man with the Roques feels that the evil aura in Li Yifan's body is becoming stronger. His colleague tells him to quickly record the data and send it to his superiors. Next, we see how some kind of huge yellow beam is heading straight into this building, which comes straight from the dark night sky. Apparently, these events are connected with the anger of the main character. We see Ying Shui, who is very worried, because she received a signal that the aura fragments in Li Yifan's body began to show strange activity again, which means that something bad happened. Not wanting to waste time, the purple-haired one is already on her way. She also takes Xiaobai with her. Who is also worried, Ying Shui tells her that they urgently need to hurry to Li Yifan. We return again to the main character, who right now continues to hold the Qing Shui in his hands. Some kind of cube has formed behind him, which seems to be charging him with some kind of force. The brown-haired man begins to feel a surge of strength in his body, but even at this moment he does not let go of the girl. He looks very angry, and it seems that he understands what is happening to him now. The villain also sees this picture. He looks very scared, since the guy, in his opinion, was able to merge with the demon and enter a state of cultivation. He thought that this could not happen. You can see how Ifan turned from an ordinary weakling into a mountain of muscles. Some kind of pattern appeared on his stomach, and his eyes glowed red. From his appearance, you can understand that he can kick the villain's ass. Li Yifan is very serious. Getting to his feet, he begins to feel an unusual feeling, while he does not know what exactly. But it seems very pleasant. It is obvious that this is a surge of strength. The villain begins to be blinded by the light that comes directly from the guy. He sees how much he has become stronger, and now begins to fear for his life, because the guy was able to immediately break through from 0 to Jindan 4. The guy with Arakis also saw what was happening to Li Yifan. He had never seen anything like this before, because demonic power helped the guy in cultivation and it scares him. His partner says that he wrote everything down, and it's time for them to return. We again see the main character, who himself seemed to have turned into some kind of demon. He increased in size, became stronger, and very sharp claws appeared on his hands, which will definitely help him in battle. We are again shown two dogs. The big dog regretfully asks for forgiveness from Ardo for not being able to save him. His little friend is not offended by him at all. He asks his brother not to say that, because this is his personal choice. We see Ardo in the arms of his mistress just like before. He looks very happy and tells his bro that someone must accompany the mistress to the other world. Husky is proud of his friend Ardo's decision. He shed a man's tear and, turning to the little dog, tells him to take care of their owner because she really needs support. In the next chapter, we are shown the Laotians along with his green demon, who is dragging a heavy bag for him. The demon does not understand why it is necessary to drag so many things into Li Yifan's house. The guy in the robe gives his answer to the demon. He says that he is the heir of the family, so the family must provide him with soul stones. He moves to Li Yifan so that he does not run away. Laos continues to walk contentedly, while the green demon looks tired because of this bag and tells him that he just wants to sit on Li Yifan's neck and eat food for his money. The demon considers him two-faced and mean. Events are transferred to the Department of Control of Evil Spirits, namely to the Scientific Institute. We see a man who looks at the purple aura and believes that this is the evil aura that comes from Li Yifan's body. Behind this man are characters already familiar to us, who had previously observed the main character. Their boss tells them that if the instrument readings are not erroneous, then these fragments of the aura are associated with demonic energy. We again see Yifan, who, being very embittered, slowly approaches the villain, clenching his huge fist. He seems to be all on fire, and there is some kind of drawing on his chest. The husky, seeing the guy, asks the Demon King if he knows what happened or Ifanum, because he is somehow strange. The red-haired one says that he himself does not understand anything, but his aura seems very familiar to him. The evil main character came close enough to the villain and stopped in front of him, telling him straight in the face that he would destroy him for killing Shuya. It's clear how determined the guy is. He grabs the guy by the neck with one hand and lifts him up, starting to choke him. The frightened man does not understand what is happening and where the guy gets such strength because he is not even able to resist him. While the guy was holding this villain with one hand, he put his other hand to the side, opening it and expecting something. The demon understood the hint and quickly turned into a huge hammer and settled in Li Yifan's hand. The angry guy hit this monster with his heavy hammer as hard as he could, causing him to helplessly fly several meters back, feeling severe pain all over his body. He can only endure it because he can't do anything to Yifan. From the side, you can see how the main character dealt a powerful blow to the villain, causing him to fly off to the side with a scream. After this, Li Yifan is going to approach the enemy again to finally finish him off. Bleeding, an angry and frightened man believes that this is all simply impossible. He does not understand how a young guy from scratch became so strong because he cannot even fight back. Meanwhile, while this fool was lying on the ground, Li Yifan's hammer increased several times. He stood in front of the enemy, raised his weapon above himself, and was going to deal a crushing blow to him so that he knew his place. It is clear that the main character is not going to show any mercy. He simply hit the body of the nasty villain with a hammer, from which various debris and fragments of stones began to fly around. Apparently, this is a lot of damage. It is clear from the villain's face that he did not really like this heavy blow. He is in severe pain and spits his blood. He is now very scared for his life, but he still cannot fight back. Even after such a serious blow, the villain remained alive. The main character, raising his hammer, simply pushed the enemy away from him. The man flying away screams and realizes that he has already lost this difficult battle. The husky looks very surprised after what he saw. He cannot believe that Yifan was able to defeat this monster. The dog is very scared and she misses her owner and her friend Ardo very much. You can see how chaos reigns all around during this battle. The building is destroyed and thick dust rises. The villain gets to his feet and begins to wipe away the blood and laughing. He sees some mysterious silhouette in a pile of dust. A dissatisfied man who has already realized that he is lost and is on the verge of death. He looks angrily at this strange figure of a man and becomes curious about who it is, so he decides to ask about it directly. The answer was not long in coming. It turned out that it was Ying Shui along with Xiao Bai. They are approaching him, and the girl asks who he is, what is he doing here. He seems very strange to her. Squeezing the fragments in his hands, this ugly monster understands that reinforcements have come to his enemies. Realizing that he cannot defeat them all, the man understands that he must take his thing to the organization at any cost. While he was in his thoughts, the purple-haired woman took advantage of the moment, and with one deft movement of her hand tied up the villain. He does not understand what they are doing, and tells them that they better let him go, because the forces behind him can destroy them all. Xiao Bai is perplexed. She believes that this maniac has troubles in his head, because they haven't even started interrogating him yet, and he has already begun to betray all his superiors to them. Ying Shui is happy about this, because they can save their time on him. Next, you can see how the girl turned her attention directly to the fragments that the bound villain was holding in his hands. Most likely this thing seems familiar to her, and when she saw this, she tensed a little. In the next chapter, we can notice how Li Yifan calmed down a little, but still remains angry and, taking the fragments from the villain, says that this thing belonged to Shui, so let no one dare touch it. Xiao Bai saw the guy's emotions and how worried he was about Qing Shui. The curiosity of this animal takes over, and he decides to check with the main character what happened to this girl. Li Yifan still silently continues to hold the Qin Shui bracelet in her hands. Instead, the Demon King decides to give an answer and says that this monster killed her, and this amulet really belonged to her before. The main character allowed the purple-haired one to come up and inspect this object because he trusts her. While examining it, she does not understand where an ordinary person could get such a thing. She is surprised by this. Husky, with tears in his eyes, answers her question. He says that he found this amulet in the bushes, he didn't know what it was, but he really liked it, and so he took it and gave it to his owner for her birthday. A bound, ugly demon sits tied up in the corner of the room, and having heard the words of the dog, attracts the attention of everyone present to himself and insults him, because he could not even recognize the demonic fragment. The main character was very angry with the behavior of this demon. He clenched his fist and began to menacingly approach him, not understanding how he even dares to snap back after this whole battle in which he lost. Having come close enough to the villain, he grabs the frightened demon by the neck and begins to strangle him to show that he is behaving completely wrong among all these people, so let him calm down. The brown-haired man again became very angry. He shook his fist and said that right now he would take revenge on him for the death of Shui. Was Yifan suddenly attracted by someone's voice asking him to stop? This man does not understand how he is capable of killing a person. Turning around, he is surprised to find a Laotian man standing with a serious face and simply looking at his nephew. So of course his little green demon came along with the guy in the blue robe. The main character listened to his uncle and, squeezing the villain's neck even more tightly, tells him that he is not trying to finish off a person, but a real demon. He believes that he must take revenge on him for the death of Qing Shui. Further, while Li Yifan was strangling the villain and was about to take revenge on him for the death of a loved one, suddenly a phone with a strange melody rang right in the demon's pants, which attracted the guy's attention, and he was about to check it. He very coolly takes out the phone from under the demon's underpants and begins to read the messages that were sent to him. It turns out that the demon's name is Huzi, and they ask him if he got the fragment. If not, then he may not return. Huzi is dissatisfied that Li Yifan is reading his messages right now. It also turned out that the Demon King read them with him and saw that the messages were sent by a certain Bio East and does not understand what it could be and what kind of demonic fragment it is. The bound maniac decides to tell them everything directly. He says that the Bio East is the first council of demons in his city, and if they lay even a finger on him, they will easily remove their skins from them. Meanwhile, the guy gives the girl the phone. Ying Shui says that in the archives of the department, there are records about the demonic banner. According to legend, it has the power to give birth to a demon. It was broken into fragments and scattered around the world. The girl also decided to read the messages with a serious look. She says that she knew that there would be an organization that would look for these fragments. The Demon King now seems at a loss. He carefully listened to the dialogue of all these people. He now looks very shocked because now he thinks that these fragments are from a demonic banner. Apparently, this means something important to him. The red-haired Demon King suddenly began to see some strange magical staff, which is located on some peak, which can be reached right on the steps. Some kind of energy emanates from it. He also sees a bunch of creatures who, apparently, are demons. They all worship this staff and express their respect and submission to it. It seems this item is very important to them. The thoughtful Demon King continues to think this way. He believes that it does not look the way he imagined, but he feels its importance for him. It seems he is starting to remember something. We see again the purple-haired one, who turns to her squirrel and tells her to guard the shard, because she also has other things to do. Xiaobai understood her perfectly, and will do what she was asked to do. Li Yifan says that he understood everything. This abnormal person is supposedly just a tool with which the organization collects fragments, and the real killers of Shui are the Bio-Oriental, so they will still have to take revenge on them. Meanwhile, the dog again begins to be sad and cry, remembering the death of the owner along with the Arto. He says that it is all his fault, because he should not have given this fragment to the owner. He believes that it is he who is to blame for their death. The serious protagonist runs up to Ying Shui and tells her that he knows that the Evil Spirit Control Department will deal with the Demon Council, and despite the fact that he is new to this department, he wants to take part in this. You can see how much desire the guy has. He just starts begging the girl to take him on this mission. He really wants to join the mission against the Bio East. The guy's request was also heard by the Laotians. He felt funny, and he decides to say straight out that destroying demons is not so easy, and supposedly the guy won't stand it, so it would be better to take him. The green demon thinks that the guy in the robe is showing off a lot. Li Yifan heard the words of his self-confident uncle. He approaches Laos and asks him not to appear, because the main character must take revenge for Shui. Meanwhile, the guy in the robe just continues to smile like a fool. The girl is against any controversy, so she approaches the guys and says that she has a plan. She knows how to bring the Bio East to light, and this is just a chance for a newcomer to show himself in action. These two became interested. The goal of the Bio East is to find the shards. First, they will lock up this tied-up scarecrow, let the organization lose contact with him, and think that he failed the task, and then they will use the shard as bait and lure them out. It then appears that they have already locked up the demon. Later, Ying Shui addresses the squirrel and says that they should use a 3D printer to print copies of the shards to later use as bait. They walk along a corridor full of people. With a shard in their hands, people think that she took the shard during the mission, and also that she caught the demon. The girl understands that her task is to spread the news that she has the shards. She put these shards on the table and says that in this building they succeeded more than they planned, because they got the second magic shard. Meanwhile, we see a demon tied up with a guard in the room. Important people of this committee are sitting at this table. The boss says that she again made a great contribution, but is she sure that the fragment is real? Another person says that it does not matter, and the main thing is to keep the news secret. The guy with the Irokesis says that he is interested in what magical properties the fragment has, and whether it was with his help that Ifan broke through to 2 levels. His friend tells him that he heard that there are only 9 fragments. Tang Xiaoberry decides to ask the others if it is safe to store this fragment here. The man in the green shirt agrees with her question, because what will they do if someone wants to appropriate it for themselves? The self-confident purple-haired girl put her feet on the table and says that there is a safe in the area of the 24th warehouse. Its protection against theft is at the highest level, so most likely the fragments can be hidden there. One of the people sitting at this table begins to put on his jacket and says that he agrees with Ying Shui's opinion, because to open the safe you need to enter an 8-digit password, and if you try to break into the safe, it will explode. Their boss agreed with their opinion. He himself believes in the safety of this safe. So standing on his feet in front of the fragment, he says that he will place this thing there, hoping that the safe will really be able to save him. We are shown that same safe. It looks quite secure. We are also made to understand that its password changes once an hour, and its security will be carried out on a first-come, first-served basis. In the next chapter, we see events that take place half an hour later. But already in the secret bunker of the Panlun family, some familiar person is standing in front of some mirror, in which there is a mysterious figure. It turned out that this person also works in the committee for fighting demons. He reports to someone that Huzi failed the task, and he brought the amulet to Qing Shui. It seems this guy is very bad. Some terrible demonic hand crawls out of this mirror or portal. She is going to take what the guy brought and says that it is not for nothing that the organization instructed him to infiltrate the Department of Control of Evil Spirits. The guy is going to give the amulet to the demon. He even tells him about it. But he has only one condition. The demon who was going to take the amulet stopped and asked him what this condition was. It can be seen that the guy is very worried and, holding the amulet in his hands, tells the demon that most likely he will be discovered this time, so he wants to return to his organization right now. Then he waits for an answer from the demon. The demon with an outstretched hand tells this guy that he already knows that they are ruled by 3 demonic kings. He himself allegedly cannot help. So he is going to report to them about his condition, and later, he will find out the answer. The demon was tired of just waiting. He asked the guy to be a spy until he was discovered, and suddenly took the amulet from his hands. The demon understands that as long as he is a spy, no one will take his place in the organization, so it's better for this guy not to return. The guy in the suit is angry at the actions of the demon. He says that the king said he can return after 3 years of working as a spy, and this happened several times, and it so happens that he has been working as a spy for 10 years. The demon listened to this guy, but so far did not give him any answer. He suddenly, for this guy, just took and squeezed this fragment in his hand. Thereby, he simply broke it, but it is not yet clear why exactly. He begins to shout at Panlun because he wanted to deceive him. The demon felt that this fragment was actually fake. Panlun himself looked surprised because he thought that the fragment was actually real. While the offended demon, whose hand was sticking out of the portal, was shouting at Panlun, he in turn noticed how some kind of hole appeared in the ceiling. He does not yet know why this happened and what will happen now. Suddenly, the entire ceiling collapsed. Thick dust rose all around, and Panlun already began to fear for his life, realizing that someone had come here for his ass so that he would know that spying is not good. It turned out that this is the main character. With his squad, he holds a huge hammer in his hands and begins to laugh at the villain, calling him a real rat. He says that he found it with difficulty, and right now he is going to take revenge for the neck. Ying Shui didn't even show any emotions. She was just disappointed in Panlun, because she didn't expect that he would work for the demon organization, so they would all kick his ass for this. Panlun looks very angry. He begins to prepare for this difficult fight and tells these people that they set it all up. The purple-haired girl looks at him in bewilderment and does not understand what this weakling is even talking about. Next, you can see how Panlun understands that he has nowhere to run, and even more so, he has already been discovered, so he understands that he has nothing to hide his true appearance behind, so he turns into a terrible demon. The main character, noticing how their enemy is already ready for battle, decides to give him a fair fight one-on-one, so he asks his friends not to touch him, because he wants to personally take revenge on his neck and is already running at him with a hammer. He ran up to the Panluk, which had already taken on its true form. Li Yifan, coming close enough to him, swung his hammer and was about to strike a heavy blow. This demon no longer knew where to go. Panlong didn't even try to dodge. He tried to show everyone his strength and caught that hammer. Right before he was about to hit it, he tries to hold it above him. However, it's a little difficult. You can see how he continues to hold this hammer and tells Yifan that he only broke through 2 levels, and then with the help of a fragment and asks him how he even dares to attack him, because in his opinion he is weak. The villain, having finished his sentence, is tired of holding this hammer over his head, so he decides to teach the guy a lesson and throws it straight into the wall with all his strength. The guy hits it, and debris is visible all around. Violet-haired, along with the Laotians, noticed that the villain was destroying the evidence and was about to escape, so they would need to urgently intervene in this fight, because they should not miss it. Laos also saw how his nephew was not coping in this battle, so he told the main character that he should have warned him that he would not cope, because the demon would definitely not be able to escape from the guy in the robe. The guy in the blue robe decides to use his magical techniques, namely 5 lightning extermination of evil spirits and a blow to the heart, after which he, with his glowing fist, begins to accelerate straight into the demon's back to strike. Panlong somehow felt that right now there was a guy running at his back who was going to strike him. Turning around, he saw a fist near his face and said that he was only slightly stronger than Yifan, and he would also disgrace himself. Then events suddenly turn into a Bio-East. Some demon turns to a certain King Peng. He reports to him that the Evil Spirits Control Department has found out about their existence, and this is actually very bad for them. We are shown King Peng himself. He understands that the Panlun was revealed, so their plan failed. He believes that everything should be in order with the Panlun. Otherwise, what will they say to Xu Hao? After all these words, King Peng orders his army to launch Plan B, because they must get the banner, because if they don't get it, then their superiors will easily kick their ass. We can notice the army of King Peng itself. These are very strong, formidable, well-armed, and protected demon soldiers who have heard an order from their chief and are already about to start acting.